2022 meeting of the Montpelier Design Review Committee. At this point, members and staff can introduce themselves.
Eric Gilbertson.
Martha Smirsky, member.
Meredith Crandall, staff.
Stephen Everett, member.
Liz Pritchett, member.
And at this point, Meredith can review the remote meeting procedures and process.
Okay, so we just have Sandy on for remote as an applicant. We don't have any members of the public, so I'm going to keep this fairly short. And this is more for people who might be on via ORCA and interested in joining. So those of you who are watching this meeting via ORCA Media, you can participate in tonight's Design Review Committee meeting via the Zoom platform. You can, if you want to have the video option so that we can see you, then you want to use this link and just type it into your browser. And that will, thank you. And that will bring you right into the meeting, and I'll let you in when I see you in the waiting room. Or you can call into this phone number and punch in this meeting ID when prompted, and you'll be able to hear and speak over the phone. You just won't have the video options where we can see you. If you have any problems accessing the meeting, please email me. My email address is here on your screen, mcrandall@montpelier-vt.org. We do ask that for anyone who is attending via Zoom, please keep your microphone on mute when you're not speaking. This reduces background noise. And know that turning on your video is optional. Sandy, and for anybody else who gets on remotely, please reserve the chat function for technical issues. And any substantive comments, just make sure you're making orally over the microphone. In the event that the public is unable to access the meeting, it will need to be continued to a time and place certain. I'll hand the meeting back over to Steve. Do we have a little bit of an echo going on?
Feedback or something.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. I couldn't tell if it was me or the microphone.
At this point, do I hear a motion from committee member to approve the agenda?
I'll second it.
All in favor of the agenda, speak your names.
Eric.
Martha.
Stephen.
Liz.
And we can move to the first application for replacement of a shed at 5 West Street. You want to come up and have a seat and describe your application for us?
As much as possible, try to speak into the microphone. It'll carry everything through to the minute taker and to anybody, including Liz, who's attending remotely.
You're elected.
It's just the shed for this meeting. The later meeting will be about the driveway issue.
Oh.
It's just the shed.
Okay. All right. Good. We were wondering about that. Yes. And for to state our names, Sean and Jenny Sheehan, 5 West Street. We had applied, build a shed in the back, I guess the northwest corner of our property, not right in the corner, the 5 and 10 foot, abutting, and, same color as our house. Recently painted the house, which was previous. I think we were in last year for, so, that aligning, matching with that. It's kind of over on a hill, so it would have piers, supporting that. I'm not sure. Anything else?
Is there a garage on the corner, in that corner of the property?
No, the garage would be on the southwest corner. So the garage is on the,
Where you were pointing, yeah, along,
The shed's here.
right.
On this lower corner, right on First Avenue. Is that where the garage is?
Yes.
right. So actually though, for First Avenue would be, oh, right. Yeah, exactly. Yep. The garage
So
is
the
down
shed
at First
from
Avenue.
First Avenue, the shed is behind the garage.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
But not attached to it.
Not attached to it. No, it'd be it's kind of the far end of the lot from the garage is right on
Garage
First
is
Ave.
to a hill.
built in right
Yes.
on, yeah,
Down lower.
it's about,
Okay.
about 10 feet off First Avenue. And then this would be on the,
Garages are never big enough.
our current garage is a one car garage, yes. And we're, converting the space above the current garage into an ADU. Which, and then gonna have the garage, well, as part of our, I guess the next week or whatever we're back.
Tonight.
Oh, it is
7
tonight.
o'clock
Oh,
tonight.
tonight as well. Oh, okay. Oh, great. So I guess we'll be talking about 7 o'clock. Is having the garage itself be a shared garage space where we would still keep our car there, but allow a tenant to keep a bike or other things in the garage. It's a one car garage, but it's kind of like a one plus, if you will. I think it's 20 foot by, it's like 22 foot deep by, even with the other space. Yeah, you couldn't fit two cars in there, but bigger than one. Yeah, if you had a couple Cooper Minis, you could fit a couple of them in there. We thought we might be able to fit both our Leaf and our Subaru if we pulled them, but no, they don't work.
The uphill from First Avenue to where you're gonna put the garage, right?
The garage.
Where
is
you're gonna put the
existing.
shed.
Yeah, right, that's correct.
And it's kind of a downhill from West Avenue or West Street.
Yeah, from West Avenue, it's pretty flat to the top of the shed there, and then
Yeah.
and then the hill starts to go down toward the back of where we have the shed.
Is it right next to the neighbor's line?
Yeah, I think we have it doing it 5 or 6 feet off of our neighbor on West Street's
Mhm.
yard, and I think it's I'm gonna measure it to be about 11 feet off the line between our First Avenue neighbor.
And for the First Avenue neighbor, if I recall correctly, it dips quite significantly right back there. Is that correct?
Yeah, right. So right where we, just like probably the last 3 or 4 feet of the garage, it starts to dip, and then from there, the shed starts to dip, and then those last 11, 12 feet of our property, as well as the first, I don't know, probably 10 feet of her property are pretty steep.
So in that zone, 5 feet is the minimum?
Yeah.
Okay. One quick question. The doors are facing the house?
Correct.
Okay. I thought so because of the slope. I
Yeah.
assumed that was the case.
Yeah.
There an existing fence between you and the neighbor on West Street?
No. There's a wall between us and our First Avenue neighbor, like a bit of a retaining
Like a retaining
wall
wall,
down where
yeah.
they form the property line there, but there's no demarcation between,
Okay.
other than plants and things.
And the siding on the shed is shingled to match that on the house?
Yeah, that's what we were thinking. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Is it a modular shed or is it a stick-built shed? Are you buying a shed kit?
A shed kit. Yeah, we actually, we hadn't completely ironed that out. I was looking at designs and doing it with sticks, and then Jenny had also found one online that was matched there. Our thought was we would be doing this in the spring. It was kind of driven, we thought, by by our 7 o'clock piece. We thought it'd behoove us to roll everything together, but you want to speak?
There is a Vermont company that makes sheds.
Mhm.
I can't recall the name at the moment. Yeah.
The one on Bristol.
I think so.
There's several.
Yeah, there's one right down when you're going down the hill from Mount Aid.
One down in Jamaica that makes really nice buildings and stuff.
Okay. So the colors would be the gray siding, the
Mhm.
black shutters, if it has shutters, and white trim. One thing is I wasn't sure of is if they're come custom, it wouldn't be shakes, it would probably be clapboard with the
Oh.
same color.
Okay.
I don't know if that's significant or not.
You just said something about siding. I didn't
Great
know
siding.
if that was matching the house siding or if it was either shingle or or clapboards are fine.
Yeah, no, I just wrote gray siding there. Apologies for my bad.
Are you running power out to it?
We were thinking that. No, we weren't thinking. Weren't thinking power to it.
If you wanted a light inside, you could put they make a little kit and then very inexpensive. And it's a solar panel outside
Okay.
and lights inside, motion detector light inside.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So you could attach that to the side of the building facing more south,
Right.
where if you have a spot that's not covered by trees or shaded
Yeah.
too much.
Yeah, there's a couple
But if
big,
you can get, a couple of panels and you can put a couple of lights inside so that when you open the doors and walk in, the light comes on.
yeah, well, that's a nice idea. Yeah, it's a lot better. We're thinking running power from the house seemed like overkill, but yeah, this little solar panel is a good idea. Immediately south is a lot of maple trees, but we probably could catch like a southeasterly and get enough morning sun to battery it up. That's a good idea. Thank you.
Although at some point, I would imagine you'll probably run power to it if you have tools or need a charger out there for something.
Yeah, potentially. I mean, I think we were mostly thinking of it for storing the lawnmower, the bikes, the things like that. And we do have power on the back porch, which isn't too many steps away. But you're right. You build something that can never be big enough and never enough power, I guess.
The solar panels are pretty small. They're like 18 inches, 12 by 18, something like that. So we could just do an amendment to allow them to add that on the exterior
Okay.
on a corner facing closest to south. If that's okay with everyone. Okay.
That's good. Thank you.
It's not really clear. I think that I'm reading that you're intending on asphalt shingles for the roof.
Oh, yeah, that was just to match just the asphalt, our architectural shingles, which is what we used when we had our house re-roofed
That was my
two-
next
2 years
question.
ago.
Is that
Yeah.
what you have on your house?
Yeah,
Okay.
so that was the idea here, was just to try to match the house with both the colors and with the shingles.
The front of the shed is over 100 feet back from the sidewalk, right? By my calculations, 16 and 5 is 20 some feet, and your lot line there is 138 feet, so it's a
Yeah,
long ways back.
yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah,
Anybody have any other comments, questions, or suggestions?
it's a good choice of location. About as far away from everything as you can.
So what I can do at this point is go through, there's a set of criteria
Okay.
that applies to the projects. All projects, number one, exterior design and materials of new construction or alterations of existing buildings shall be consistent and compatible with the characteristics of the existing building or other properties in the district. New construction shall be considered to be compatible if the materials used possess a kind or type that are appropriate to the district. Materials selected shall either fit the neighborhood context of the proposed building and or reflect the nature and use of the structure. Acceptable. Height. New buildings shall be compatible with the varied heights of existing adjacent buildings. Acceptable. Proportion. Compatibility of relationship between width and height of facades as well as relationship of width to height of windows and doors. Acceptable. Rhythm. Visual patterns established by the alterations of solid walls and openings in the facade of the building should create a rhythm. Acceptable. Roof shape and equipment. Consider similarity or compatibility with roof shapes in immediate area. Conceal roof equipment and features on flat roofs from eye level. Doesn't apply here. Acceptable. Architectural features, including but not limited to cornices, windows, shutters, fan lights, entablature, trim, and other forms of molding or character defining detailing prevailing on the existing building should be considered in the alteration of the building. Actually, this is for the new construction. Architectural features prevailing in the surrounding area shall be regarded as suggestive of the extent, nature, and scale of details that are appropriate for new buildings acceptable. Criteria for new buildings only. New development shall incorporate sustainable design and construction methods and materials compatible with historic materials and styles acceptable. Scale and massing of new buildings should be compatible with surrounding structures acceptable. Context and connectivity. Building design shall be sensitive to the overall character and context of the design review overlay district and to adjacent buildings acceptable. Accessory buildings and structures. New accessory buildings or structures shall be located within either the side yard or rear yard and shall not visually disrupt the streetscape or affect the integrity of the existing building or proposed new building acceptable. All in favor of the application, speak your names.
Eric,
Martha, I'm a yes.
Stephen says yes.
Liz says yes.
Okay, the application is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
You should have a pen there. We're gonna have you sign the recommendation form. And then that will get rolled into the packet and we'll see what DRB does at 7 on the driveway.
You can sign that in the box. My name.
Should we both sign?
Just one of you is fine. And I double checked the agenda. You're actually second on the DRB meeting. So the meeting starts at 7, but your application won't be up right away. But I don't know exactly how long that first application will take, but
Thank you.
feel free to go and hang out somewhere else if you want, but it's pretty wet outside too.
Good luck with your project.
Thank you.
See you in a bit. Take care.
We can move forward to the next application. Welcome back, 138 West Street.
Hi, Sandy.
Hi there.
Hi, Sandy.
Hello.
Go ahead and bring us up to date on the new information.
Okay, so tonight I'm bringing forth 4 topics. The first one is the possible, I would say actually unlikely, but possible roof material replacement with TPO. The second is a requirement from the city to add proper handrails to the exterior ramp. The third is to talk further about the airlock, and the fourth is to talk further about windows. Those actually, that's going in as a fresh start, the 6 angle top windows. So covering the roof material first, it's not visible from the street. This is a more modern material than the crushed stone on asphalt that's there now. Something needs to be replaced very soon. And this is a recommended material because it has such a long warranty and it's good against leaks. Onto the second item, the exterior ramp. I've included a photograph. We need to extend the handrails out to the very, very bottom of the ramp, plus a bit further. And I'm proposing black pipe iron or iron pipe as the handrail and as the bottom, the end posts. I should also add that the sprinkler system is requiring that the space underneath of the ramp be enclosed, and they have approved that we can use lattice. And so I'm just suggesting that we use the black lattice that I submitted in earlier applications. It's just a black lattice. Maybe I should ask if there are any questions about those first 2 items.
Yeah, can you remind me where the ramp is? If I'm looking at the building from Main Street straight on, where is the ramp?
It's all the way in the back of the building on the right-hand side. You cannot see it from the street.
Okay,
There's Main Street.
okay, yeah,
back here
Thank you.
tucked in.
that helps me.
Are there any other questions about the first 2 items?
No.
Okay. So on to the airlock. The new information here is a more detailed letter from the historic preservationist named Alex Tolstoy. And it helped me understand a little bit better what's going on. But it's actually, they don't think now that the granite heaved, we think that it got worn out by salt. And it's actually a cup. It might also be a little bit of a heave, but it's mostly the cupping. And what happened is they started to lay out the airlock. They realized that there's an inch gap in the middle, including where the hinge of the door needs to come down and hopefully be supported by something so that the door doesn't come off. And also there's, lack of thermal protection where there's a gap. So what they want to do is put down 5 pins instead of the one on the corner. And they would prefer it to have a permanent, like a track. And all of that coming in and out every season, Alex Tolstoy is really worried about the granite slab. The granite slab is historic. It's actually quite unusual. It's 8 inches thick and about 8 feet by 8 feet in size. And he's just not happy about drilling those holes in there. So he was the person that brought this up, that he would prefer to see the airlock be permanent. And he also brings up the point that this will help in the summers to keep the building cool, which I have to admit I had not thought of, but I think it's a very good point. So anyways, I guess, Steve, would you like to have discussion about this and then go on to the windows?
Sure, that's fine.
The door.
Sandy, Sandy, I have a question.
With the railings and the roofing.
I have a question about how the airlock is going to be secured to that granite. I didn't understand that.
Sandy, I have the information from your prior application where it got approved temporary. Do you want me to pull that up on the screen so Liz can see as you're talking about it?
That would be good. I didn't think about resubmitting it. Sorry.
Nope, that's okay. I didn't think about including it in the packet that went to everybody. So it's not just
Well,
you.
it's brilliant.
Give me a
If you
minute.
don't mind, put it on up and let Liz have a look.
Yeah.
I missed the last meeting, so
Well, this was a couple of meetings ago, I think. I don't know if you were there for that one or
I don't think it was either.
give me a minute. I've got to
Thanks.
find the right one. Here we go. So let's zoom out a little. So here's the current, existing historic doors and the whole granite slab here. And then here's where the airlock would be, right, Sandy?
Yep. Yes.
So set back in, away from where the arches are. And there's multiple anchor points.
Well, no, there weren't before. So it's mostly attaching through a channel on the ceiling, which is permanent and black, same color as the ceiling. And then that's what it looks like.
Yeah.
And then it had, see the corner right where that little hand is, there's a corner post that was going to pin down to the floor. And then there were a couple of attachments against the brick walls in the mortar. And that was going to be enough. But if you look at that door, can you go back up, Meredith?
Sure. I was going to show this one, but.
Oh, yeah. Why don't we do, okay. I'm sorry. I think it's a good idea. So do you see that, Liz?
Yeah, I do. So in other words, there won't be any holes drilled into the granite slab.
I think there will still need to be one.
Okay.
But if you don't mind going back up, Meredith, to the front view.
That one?
That one with the panic bar. So you see how there's a thin rail along the bottom? And that would, from almost all along that length. It cups down, and the center line of the cup is right underneath the handle on the door. So it's just that that is suddenly having to support and reinforce the airlock, and it wasn't designed to do that.
Right. Okay.
So there's a unanticipated gap here, right,
Right.
Andy, where the granite dips down so that now this whole bar along the bottom here in the middle is carrying the weight versus the granite carrying the weight.
Correct. There's a small threshold under the door, but it was going to be, the threshold was going to be an inch, or will be an inch off the granite.
If we will go with this temporary setup.
Well, whether it's temporary or permanent, that inch has to be made up. But the problem is they have to use extra pins, and they have to somehow remove it. And I did find a neoprene gasket that they were willing to look into, but that won't be enough, because that obviously isn't going to take weight, the neoprene gasket. So what they wanted to do was add an aluminum bar that could be scribed to the cup.
Who
Yeah.
proposed that, Sandy?
Could you, what?
Who proposed that aluminum bar?
The airlock company and Alex, while they were talking about it.
Okay.
So you hope that won't be a trip hazard, right? It's like a threshold, I guess.
It'll be a threshold, but so what Alex is worried about is the extra pins having to be come in and out every year,
Right. No, I understand.
right where people are walking.
Mhm.
For me, the fact that you're proposing it to be permanent now raises some issues that a temporary airlock might not raise. First, you still need to go with a heavier door if you're going to do the locking door. Is that what you planned on?
Yeah, they cannot lock the inside door. For a number of reasons.
Because that obscures the doors on the original doors on the building.
It does. I mean,
partly because it's off center, and the railing, my calculation, the railing comes right in front of the lock side, comes right in front of the doors.
it does. The doors are wide. They're 5 feet wide.
Is there any reason the door?
The airlock's made. When it
Wow.
got approved in July, the airlock's already finished. So I don't think they're going to make it again. I mean, I think the option is to just have the holes in the slab and have it be seasonal, as was agreed upon.
Is there so that you said the airlock is already fabricated?
Yeah, they were starting to put it in.
I'm just curious, didn't we review this similar airlock a couple of years ago?
Was when Margot George was still alive.
Yeah.
Back before the
It was
energy.
several years ago, and it was rejected. It wasn't some.
Yeah.
Well, the fact that this is the worst performing building probably in Montpelier, if not the state of Vermont, is much more important now that buildings be energy efficient. And the owner just let it go that he was going to have air leaking out the door. But it's not acceptable anymore from a climatic point of view and a financial point of view.
Is the new sill for the door across there, is that going to create some kind of a trip hazard? How tall is
I
it?
haven't seen it yet, so I don't know. Well, it's going to probably be about 1.5 inches, I'm guessing. 1.25 inches.
That seems not good to me. I mean, it's just an element of somebody not seeing it and tripping over it.
Mhm.
There, most of the thresholds they make, excuse me, they make a threshold that's either it either has a thermal break or not, but it's a handicap threshold, and there's probably 3/4 to an inch, maybe 3/4 of an inch to an inch, and they're sloped, and they're specifically listed as handicap thresholds so that you could roll a wheelchair over and you don't trip on those. Unless you're dragging your feet, you wouldn't know it's there. And that would probably, my guess is that would probably be specified. And that you can get that in colors, either silver, gray, black, to match whatever other framework you're using.
That could be, assuming, we'll see, but that could be something that is added as an option for them, or would it be a recommendation?
I would think that they would want the handicap threshold anyway.
Yeah.
That's all we've ever used.
That's what they were planning to do, I think.
This isn't
You
a
can't-
handicap.
Well, it's not handicap, but I'm just saying that's a low profile.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a
As an
low
egress
profile,
out of-
so nobody's going to trip over that threshold.
It is an egress on a public building. It has to be.
Yes,
Okay,
handicapped. It's happening.
that's required by code anyway.
yeah, so that's something that is going to be in place no matter the height of the sill under the door, the sill, the bar, the support under the door, right?
Well, the threshold would mount right on the granite.
Yeah.
And if it's slightly out of level, they may have to level it, but there shouldn't, in the width of a threshold, there shouldn't be that much of a
Is the
difference.
granite hollowed out underneath where the threshold is gonna go? That's my understanding.
Yes. That by making it permanent, I think they have more options about the height of the threshold and the design of it.
Okay.
It's not having to hold things together.
As long as it meets code, which it would have to anyway, I don't see any issues with it,
With the threshold.
with the threshold.
I don't see an issue with the threshold. My concern is basically the permanency of an airlock there in one of the most beautiful buildings in town. And I'm not seeing any way around that.
I'm assuming that the main door is very well weather stripped.
It's not. It can't be. It's a double door.
Oh, it's a double door. Yeah.
Yeah. We can't, to be honest, he can't lock it.
Right. You mentioned that.
It's this one, Liz.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you can still weather strip it though, can't you? And
The airlock's already been approved and manufactured.
yeah.
So I think the option is going in as seasonal or going in permanent.
Uh-huh.
I think as far as having it permanent makes a difference between having it a temporary. It makes a lot of difference in my way of looking at it. Because of at least partly because of the scaring the beautiful original doors.
Okay.
Scaring
Okay.
it 12 months a year instead of 7 months or 6 months.
Well, then I'm going to suggest that we keep it as is and we'll just deal with the holes. Hopefully they won't be back to try to replace the granite slab.
Well, is that, I mean, Hold on a second, Sandy.
Yeah.
That's Eric's opinion. What
Yeah.
is everybody else's, right? Because you need at least 3 yeses. And I just want to make sure we're not. I'm not trying to overrule you, Eric. I just want to make sure that we understand where it is on this.
So I'm sorry if I'm misunderstanding, but why do you have to, I thought you could build the airlock so that if it's not permanent, you wouldn't have to necessarily drill the holes, would you?
Yes, the 5 holes will be drilled into the slab because it's not stable horizontally with the door opening and shutting. The hinge isn't supported. The strike bar, the fixed rail, the stile is not supported. So they have to drill more holes.
And part of the concern is that those holes will then be exposed when you take all the framework out, allowing water
Yeah, and then they
down
just
into the hole.
wear on the holes. And then, possible scars of other things that have to hold it together that will be coming in and out every season.
What about leaving the threshold in
That's my thought too.
and so that you're not exposing the holes or anything? And
That
then
might help.
moving the rest of it.
So, like taking off the door itself?
Yeah, taking the door and the rest of it down like it was originally planned. It's just the addition to this is really the threshold.
Could they
Design,
leave
right, from what you
the
originally put.
could they leave the corner post up year round? But really the problem is that corner post and then the L on the bottom, the L shape on the floor.
I would say leaving the corner posts and leaving the threshold in place would help a lot in terms, because then it wouldn't obscure the front doors during.
If that's acceptable to everybody, I think we could make that work. I think that's brilliant.
You're brilliant, Eric.
Okay, so the corner post would stay, and
I
then
think
the
corner
threshold.
posts are going to be black.
Mhm.
It's going to look a little weird to have them there, but
But they also blend in a little bit with the black
yeah,
columns.
and that would need, if
It's gonna look a lot better than.
if the panels come out and the frame stays, that's probably as good as we're going to do with this.
I can live with the threshold and the columns staying as long as the actual glass or plexiglass or whatever it is comes in and out with each season.
Yeah, I mean, I understand the issue with the granite and the holes and fastening it down, but if they leave the threshold in place, then you don't have to worry about that.
Right.
If there's screw holes, you can put bolts or screws in when it's out.
On the side, it's all doesn't have stuff getting in it.
I think leaving the corner post will also help people know that there's something on the floor, so that they're less likely to trip on the threshold being left there.
I'm okay with that solution as well.
I am 100% sure I can sell that one to the owner.
Well, Steve is here writing away on the recommendation form, so we'll let him finish up with that before we move on to anything else.
I'm gonna send a quick text to somebody. Hold on.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm in the middle of a trip and people. Anyways,
Sandy, what I wrote was the airlock entry to be installed with a corner post and door side threshold to be installed permanently, with the remainder of the frame glass or plexiglass and door to be removable for seasonal installations.
I think for the corner post to be rigid, the side threshold needs to, there's like a rail on the floor on the side. I think that both need to be there permanently.
Okay. So I just scratch out door side. I'll just say corner post and thresholds
Okay,
to be installed permanently, with the remainder of the frame glass or plexiglass and door to be removable for seasonal installations.
very good.
Okay.
Okay. Next item is the angle top windows. So this is a fresh application. And I want to thank you for approving the 31 rectangular windows last time. Those are all the rectangular building windows on the building, including the front facade. And there was some disagreement last time about what should happen with the 6 angle top windows that are in the dormers on the back of the building. I would point out again that they're not visible from the street, really anywhere. And so they're in poor condition, and the interior storms are really not working. So the options, we very carefully went through pricing and drawing out options. The replacement of the windows, having an actual functional modern window that looks like the old one is cost prohibitive. Replacing the windows in their original shape but fixed, and they would be flat without a step for the lower sash, is going to cost $2,000 a window. For that and the other option where it's not easy for someone to get out, I find unacceptable for life safety issues. So these, if they're fixed, obviously they can't be used for egress. The third option is the small triangle of glass that was suggested. And this would require a horizontal mullion that would be between the two, the operating rectangle window and the fixed triangle above it, kind of filling in as a panel up until the roof. That mullion, horizontal mullion, has to take a lot of stress because it has to hold the window in place, both of them. And so it's structural as well as it has to shed water. When we drew it out, the glass was going to be about 4 inches high and 12 inches wide. And the best way to look at that is I included a photograph of one of the windows from the inside, and the bottom the meeting rail is pushed all the way up. So you can see how much glass is available in the triangle, but inside that we have to have another, like a fixed sash. So it would take off about 1.5 inches from that remaining small triangle. So there's just not a lot of glass that would remain. The labor on this was going to be really huge. The team found this to be both infeasible and aesthetically confusing, was the term, from the historic preservationist. He asked me to point out again that the bathroom window, which is on the right-hand side on the west elevation, has always been rectangular, and it's always had a panel over it. The panel's painted green. He said he could paint it black or green. The those are the four options we could think of. And one thing Alex suggested is he said if it were truly important, that maybe what the owner should do is restore the 6 front windows on the second floor rather than replacing those. It's basically a trade. It seemed, again, for me, I'm concerned about any window that could be used as part of an apartment having to have 1 or 2 fixed storms that make it hard to get out if there's a fire. So I didn't agree with that, but he suggested it, so we got to put it out there for you.
Sandy, I noticed that when I read the materials today. Are you suggesting that where we approved the replacement of the rectangular windows, that the owner is willing to restore those, which I understand is a significantly more expensive experience? Is that what you're saying?
The historic preservationist has suggested that.
Okay, I think we were all confused on that part. So thank you for clarifying it now.
But that's not part of the application, is that correct?
My concern is a restored window is harder for someone to get out if there's a fire. And I think that, so it's not my recommendation. I think that I'm quite sure the owner's going to do whatever you folks suggest. So as you work it out, just that is something that Alex put out as a way to make a compromise. I think the strategy is that the front windows that are visible to everybody are more important than the rear windows. However, the replacement windows will not look much different at all from the original windows. So,
And if you restore the windows, you're restoring basically the sash and putting insulated glass in. But then at that point, how do you get rid of the window weights and that cavity, which is no insulation in it, which is a huge
Right.
heat loss?
and everything you do, including getting rid of the weights and 1 or 2 storms on it, is going to increase exit time if there's a fire.
Yes.
I don't really see the benefit of trading one for the other. I really don't. The ones that we approved, I think there was a good reason for approving it, and I have no problem with that at all. But I still have issues with putting a rectangular window in the arched windows or the triangular windows. And the reasons that I do are the reasons that I stated last week. This is one of the most significant historic buildings we have on Main Street. It's an absolutely gorgeous building. And to change the windows so significantly seems to me to be an aberration. I have in mind several years ago, actually, when someone on Court Street wanted to change the double front doors on their house because of the need for better egress and also for weather reasons. We wouldn't allow that. And here we're talking about taking out arched windows and putting in square windows with a plywood or some sort of wood panel on top of it.
Well, they would be
those are the-
paneled out to match the one that's existing. But again, they are not visible from any street, any
these-
public domain.
These are only the ones in the rear of the building?
Correct. There's 2 dormers in the driveway side. There's 1 towards the rear of the building. And then there are 3 inside the tree on the east side, on the right-hand side of the building as you face it. The 3 that are facing the tree are imminently going to become part of an apartment. And the one in the egress in the hallway, I mean, the other thing would be to balance out what the function is inside the rooms, but those 4 are critical. The other 2, there is a decent chance that will be turned into an apartment as well. It's an office space right now, but I just,
Now I noticed that on the front of the building facing the street up on the 3rd level, And there are some triangular upper
Yes.
sash. And
Yes,
it
and the
looks like,
owners,
and it looks like is there one half round or is that also a triangular?
it's actually a beautiful mix of angle tops and half rounds, and all of those it's been agreed that they're going to be restored.
Okay, so the ones on the front of the building would not be changed. You're only looking to change the ones on the back of the building which don't face the street.
Correct. So none of those. All of those are going to be restored.
Yeah,
The entire front of the building, right?
You can't,
The
all the arched angle tops on the front will
They're-
be restored, and the rectangular will be replaced. They were approved before, but so if you zoom, I'm zooming in on
Yes.
this big screen right now, so you can see the other side. Right, so there's an angle top here on this bump out, and then on the other side, and then this is that half round, half
It-
round, half round.
It
There's another
shows,
angle here.
it shows on this picture here,
Yeah.
there's several of the angle tops and the half rounds up top that face the street.
Yep.
The only ones they're proposing to change the panel are in the back of the building facing the tree and the parking lot.
yeah, and if you don't mind zooming out, Meredith, just a bit, you'll see that tree. But even if the tree weren't there, you wouldn't see them really from the street at all. They're just, yeah, there's a lot of green back there.
So yeah, you can't even really see that back section of the building.
Right. And then coming down from the Unitarian Church towards the roundabout, you can't see the windows either. From the other direction, you just,
So these windows are on the same side of the building and back of the building where the pellet silo is going.
that's right. They're actually above the pellet silo.
Yes.
And this is gonna be done in such a way that if someday somebody decides to reverse it, they can.
Yes, that's correct. They're inserts.
Yeah.
So you can't, even if you stand there, you can't see them. They're stepped back.
Yeah, because this zips in.
Yeah, but even if that tree were gone, you couldn't see them.
Yeah, I'm okay with with that plan, I think, considering egress and energy efficiency and the fact that you're retaining so much of the historic character on the front. I think it's okay to make the change to those triangular topped windows in the back. And they can be replaced later on if somebody wanted to put back the originals.
Right. I guess I feel the same in the back that you don't see it anyway. And you won't be able to tell, even if you worry to see it from a distance, which you'd have to be in order to see it back there. I don't see that it's a noticeable change. And again, it is reversible if somebody chose to put the triangle and the windows in the back for some reason. But the new windows give you much better energy efficiency. There solves lead paint issues in case there is an apartment there. And it also gives you much better egress if need be.
One thing I remember doing, not in Montpelier, it was maybe 20 years ago, is the owner made a commitment to store the windows on site. There's the basement's in the floodplain, but they could be stored if the committee wanted.
Store the
That would be a
originals.
good thing to do.
The old sashes.
Yes, no, that would be a good thing to do, to store those so that they could either be replaced or restored or recreated somehow if somebody chose to in the future.
I think that's a good idea.
Is that okay with everyone?
I'm still going to vote no on this
Okay.
particular issue. I
Okay.
recognize that everybody else is voting yes. I also, in order to preserve them, let's save them, let's store them.
Yes.
At least we'll do that. And
Okay.
I recognize the fact that there is a 3-1 vote here. Having gone to grade school, I can count.
Okay.
Yeah. I've stated why I feel the way I do.
Okay.
And that's all I can do.
Okay, that's okay.
This is why we have different people from different backgrounds on our committees so that
Yes.
we can get all the different perspectives.
Yeah. And he's willing to start on the third floor.
Yeah. That and the low arch top along the first floor are all gonna get restored as well. That shape's gonna get preserved, so that's nice. I spent a lot of time walking by that building in the early 2000s when I lived on Liberty Street and worked on State Street, so
I worked next door, Patterson Walk, for a long time.
yeah, it's nice to see work getting done on the building, for sure. Steve's writing again, Sandra.
And I'm walking. It's all good. May I say I'm a half an hour late for dinner? May I just trust you all to write up what we've discussed, and whatever you say will be fine?
Does anybody have any more questions for Sandy?
I mean, I think, come to a reasonable compromise on things, so I'm.
So there'll be,
Just what I wrote down was that the rear windows with the triangular top shape on the upper sash are to be removed and stored for possible future use if replaced with the new rectangular windows.
Perfect.
yeah, they'll do a final vote and I will send you a scan of the form because I am gonna need your signature or Vince's on the form before we can issue any kind of permit.
I will, if you don't mind sending it to me tomorrow, I'll print it out, send it, scan it, and I can either take a picture and send it to you or actually email it back.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Area again.
Go have dinner. I think you still
Okay.
can do it just for the record for the minute keeping.
Okay.
Thank you.
I have a question here.
Thanks.
You suggest key criteria for review for both angle top window replacement and making airlock permanent. Now, we did make the recommendations for both of those. Do you still want me to go through this?
I think it was just the fact that I put that note in there because determining whether or not they're character defining features, I think you kind of discussed that, right?
Okay.
So the front door clearly was a character defining
Yes.
feature. It was very important to be able to see that part of the year at least.
Okay, so
And
I
then
just,
it sounded like the
I'll
angle
just-
chopped windows in the back,
Yep.
because they're in the back,
yes,
those aren't as much of a character defining feature as the ones in the front.
okay,
That's what I took away from that, all that discussion.
Okay.
If somebody were to come to me and be like, oh, we're appealing this, that's where I
So-
would take it.
I will just say that the character defining features are acceptable because the airlock is removable and the windows are in the back of the building.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's how I would look at it. But I flagged that in there because that was sort of under our regulations, that was one of the clincher points. So thank you.
okay. So I'll go drop down to number 2. Existing buildings shall be recognized as a physical record of their time, place, and use. Any new development shall be differentiated from the old, but shall respect and be compatible with the massing, size, scale, architectural features, detailing an overall character of the primary historic building and nearby historic properties acceptable. Rhythm. Visual patterns established by the alterations of solid walls and openings, windows and doors, and the facade of a building shall create a rhythm. Patterns of solids and openings shall be preserved to the extent feasible, acceptable. Architectural features, including but not limited to cornices, windows, shutters, fan lights, entablature, trim, and other forms of molding or character defining detailing prevailing on the existing building shall be considered in the alteration of a building acceptable. And all in favor of the application, speak your names.
Eric,
This is Martha. I will say yes to replacing the roof material, adding the handrails, and to the modifications we've made in terms of the airlock, but I'm a no on the windows.
Okay, I'll make that note here. Liz?
Yes, I vote yes.
Okay, and Steve says yes as well. So the vote would be 3-1, and I'll make a notation that
And I will adjust what the permit is for, what the permit is titled, to take out that restoring the 6 front windows. That was my misunderstanding about what was being proposed based on Sandy's and my discussion, and then what was in the packet and everything else. I was like, wait, aren't we? We're trying to do
trade-off.
Yeah, well, I understood what he was proposing, and I didn't quite understand that Sandy wasn't supporting that, which meant it wasn't in the application. So I'll fix that and what the permit says.
and all I notated was a vote was 3-1 in favor. Started with a notation that one committee member was not in favor of replacing the windows at the rear of the building, which had the triangular shaped glass and on the top of the upper sash. Okay.
Awesome.
Next item to review and approve the meeting minutes from 9/6/22.
That's just you and me. So,
Yeah.
I read them over and they look good to me. So I say I move to have them accepted the way they are.
Well, we
Yeah.
need 3 people, right?
Yeah, and that's, I mean, typical is we usually wait for 3 people from the meeting, so we can just wait.
Okay.
Okay.
You don't have to, but that's what we
Okay,
standard practice
We're
is.
both in favor of the minutes, but if you need 3, we'll wait till Ben comes back. He's the
Okay.
only other one who was here,
Yeah.
and you have your attendance.
Yep, I took care of that.
Anybody have anything else to add? Otherwise, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I second it.
All in favor of adjournment, speak your names.
Martha?
Eric.
Steve,
Liz?
meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you, Liz.
You're welcome. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. I'm glad you're feeling better.
Thank you.
Have a lovely night.
You as well.